I like being able to stand during these meetings. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Then there's some guy in Hayward that does that.
You're
live.
Mayor, you're ready.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the City Council meeting of May the 12th, 2020. Madam Clerk.
Prior to roll call, the city attorney would like to make an announcement regarding the teleconferencing of this meeting.
Let me try that again. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, the governor has issued executive orders to facilitate social distancing and to slow the spread of the coronavirus. The orders relax certain requirements that pertain to remote meetings under the Brown Act and allow certain legislative bodies, including this council, to hold public meetings by teleconference. We have adopted procedures for this meeting that meet or exceed the standards set forth by the governor. For more information, please refer to Governor Newsom's Executive Order N-25-20. And now, Madam Clerk, please conduct roll call, and I would ask the mayor to recognize me afterward to confirm certain matters for the record.
Councilmember Hudson,
Here.
Councilmember Alone,
Here.
Councilmember Perkins,
Here.
Vice Mayor Safar,
Here.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Here. Mr. Lyons.
Thank you. Thank you. I would now like to verify that 1, all members of the council can hear me well. 2, all members of the council have been able to hear all previous speakers, including the roll call. And 3, each council member believes, based on facial or voice recognition or otherwise, that all persons representing themselves to be a council member are in fact who they say they are. If all 3 statements are true, please indicate by raising your hand or giving a thumbs up. Thank you.
Okay.
And as a reminder, any votes taken this evening during this meeting must be taken by roll call. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Speaking, roll call. Oh, we have done the roll call. Madam Clerk, yours.
Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance.
Sabina, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
All right, I will try to remember it. I pledge allegiance
to
to the
flag
flag
of the United States of
America,
and to
and to the
republic
republic
for which it stands,
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice for
all.
Thank you.
Item 3, announcements. 3.1, changes and additions to the agenda. We have none this evening. Item 3.2, if you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken on an agenda item. Item 3.3, board, committee, and commission meetings. A list of upcoming meetings can be found on the city's website, and you can subscribe to those pages. Item 4, public comment.
Public comment are for items that are not on the agenda. We encourage anybody from the audience to speak to us on any topic they want, aside from these on the agenda. We ask you talk for 3 minutes or less. Madam Clerk, has anybody asked to speak for public comment?
We do have one written comment that we have received. However, those that are in attendance, if you would like to speak under public comment, please click the raise your hand button now or *9 on your telephone. And I'll go ahead and start with the written. So the first comment was received from Jim Blicken's staff. China and the future of 5G. That definitive test case on the health risks from the cumulative effects of added EMF radiation from 5G emitters may finally be at hand. The large cities of China and the study group would be the millions of people occupying those cities. Beijing, Shanghai, Nanjing, Guangzhou, and Wuhan have all had major rollouts in 2019. Incredibly, Guangzhou will have approximately 65,000 5G base stations by the end of 2021. At last report, Wuhan had close to 20,000. The largest case study in the history is now underway. In this case, it is about the health consequences from a new exotic and understudied EMF radiation technology. Rather than race to replicate this massive and dangerous experiment, we, national, state, and local governments must take the opportunity to first study and determine any resulting health effects. They, in fact, may have already started. The challenge for researchers will be to get accurate information as to general health status of affected populations over a 1, 2, and 3 year period of time, with a focus on early pre-5G baseline health status numbers and comparisons over time to those numbers after full 5G deployment and exposure. The challenges come from China's reputation for controlling information bearing on their world status, making it a difficult but not insurmountable task. As a local authority, the city of San Ramon should, at the very least, demand definitive results demonstrating a predictability safe outcome from this large-scale 5G China experiment before considering any 5G placement in neighborhoods or school zones within city jurisdictions. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this most serious issue. Jim Blickenstaff.
Thank you, Jim. Has anybody else raised their hand?
It looks we have no other requests to speak this evening.
Okay, we'll close the first public comment. There's one at the end of our meeting too. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 5, consent calendar.
Items on the consent calendar are deemed routine in nature, but anybody from our audience or for a staff member or councilman can ask for an item to be pulled for further consideration. Is there a motion?
I'll move 5-1.
I can second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Hudson.
Aye.
Councilmember Alone.
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Safar.
Yes.
And Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passed 5-0. Item 6, special presentations, we have none. Item 7, deferred consent items, we have none. Item 8, adoption of ordinances, we have none. Item 9, city council appointments, we have none. And item 10, approval of minutes. Before you are the minutes from the city council meeting from April 28th, 7 p.m. for you to approve or amend.
Is there a motion?
I can move 10.1
second.
city council. All right.
Vice Mayor made a motion, Alone made the second. Any comments? Seeing no
Aye.
comments, roll call vote.
Councilmember Hudson.
Aye.
Councilmember Alone.
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Safar.
Aye.
And Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passed. Item 11, unfinished business. We have none. Item 12, new business. 12.1, Open Space Advisory Committee 2019 Annual Report. Introduction by Kathy Hyman, Parks and Community Services Director. Presented by Aparna Matareddy, Open Space Advisory Committee Chairperson.
Hi, Kathy.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. It has been my pleasure this past year to work with the Open Space Advisory Committee. They are a great group of people. They're very passionate about conservation, open space, and making open space accessible to our residents in every way possible. They've accomplished a lot this year. I think you'll be pretty impressed with their annual report. And Aparna Matareddy is here this evening. She is their current chairperson, and she will take you through some of those highlights. Aparna?
Thank you, Kathy. I think you already explained and summed up everything. Do you still want me to present?
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Aparna Matareddy, Chair of the Open Space Advisory Committee, here to present the San Ramon Open Space Committee's 2019 Annual Report. Next slide. Thank you. So we have a great group of committee members: John Miklos, who's the vice chair, Jian Yao, Lorraine Kalich, Krista Keller, Seth Adams, Eric Wallace, who's the planning commissioner, he's the liaison, and Don Birnbaum, the parks commissioner. City council liaisons, council member Phil Alone and council member Scott Perkins. Next slide, please. So our 2019 presentations and tours, the outside agency presentations were by Neoma Lavelle from East Bay Regional Park District. It was the annual update that was presented. The trail mapping, easy to hike mobile app presentation by Yuri Bar. The Parks, Trails, Open Space and Recreation Master Plan update by Stephanie Grigsby design workshop. We had several staff presentations, guided trail hike program, the future trail connections, laborers property UGB update, open space corridor map update, easy to hike implementation plan, and the open space page in the activity guide. We had offsite tours. We did the proposed San Ramon walking district during one of the meetings. Internal and external partnerships, this is still a work in progress. We created an open space corridor map to illustrate existing preserved land from Mount Diablo to Doolan Canyon. Negotiated the laborers property 177-acre dedication agreement executed between the property owner, the city of San Ramon, and the East Bay Regional Park District. Dedication is expected in 2020. I don't know if I should say the word early, but somewhere in 2020. Increase the number of open space hikes led by open space committee members and added additional led hikes through a partnership with Sports Basement. Increase the participation in the San Ramon Trails Challenge. Focus on trail enhancements, including publicity, signage, connections, and trail quality. Contracted with Easy to Hike to include turn-by-turn direction on San Ramon trails. Several significant San Ramon trails have been identified, and segments without names have been assigned temporary names and will be included in the Easy to Hike application. The Parks, Trails, Open Space and Recreation Master Plan has identified the key east-west trail connections and will include, when completed, recommendations on priorities and funding options. Identify opportunities to educate the committee and the community on open space. We offered 4 open space hikes that were led by Open Space Advisory Committee and 2 open space hikes led by Sports Basement staff. Added an open space page to the quarterly activity guide. Increased social media promotion of open space hikes and opportunities, and hosted an art display in the rotunda of City Hall with art created by a local team of San Ramon Open Space. Our goals, enhance external partnerships and continue to maintain and grow internal partnerships. Establish a subcommittee to focus on outreach to open space advocates, and we have already established that subcommittee. Build partnerships and host a meeting with other regional open space advocates, including nonprofits, government agencies, and elected and appointed officials from other Tri-Valley cities. Coordinate and partner with East Bay Regional Park District to support their master planning and trail connectivity process. Continue to build and enhance the GIS database for open space land within and contiguous to the city. Continue to partner with the Parks and Community Services Department to increase programming and outreach in the open space areas. Our next goal is identifying opportunities to educate the committee and the community on open space within and contiguous to San Ramon by encouraging the community to take pictures on trails and in open space and submit them for use on the open space webpage. Continue to build and expand the open space webpage by adding the corridor map and a history of preservation in San Ramon. Develop outreach articles focused on creeks, streams, and waterways. Schedule a presentation for the committee on the importance of stormwater to the community and its impact on open space. And continue quarterly open space committee member-led hikes coordinated by the Parks and Community Services Department. Goal number 3, continue to review development planning proposals as needed and provide recommendations for the City Council's consideration. Identify ways to implement the recommendations identified in the Parks, Trails, Open Space and Recreation Master Plan. review new development projects and identify opportunities for trail and open space enhancement, review zoning ordinance to determine if there are potential open space changes that should be considered. Focus on trail enhancements, including publicity, signage, connections, and trail quality. Utilize the Easy to Hike app to encourage trail use by the community. Place Easy to Hike signage at key trail heads and use social media and other marketing tools to inform the public about the app. Identify opportunities to connect key trails in the community with a particular emphasis on east-west trail connections. Look for community partners to assist in the establishment, funding, improvement, and promotion of the San Ramon Trail system. Practice stewardship and identify opportunities for restoration and enhancement. Defining and measuring the city's open space and trail system. Complete an inventory and assessment of the current trail system and make recommendations for trail improvement. Develop and recommend a process and system for naming new trails. Research the development of mileage targets for the city's trail system. Research the development of open space acreage targets that reflect the desire for preservation of San Ramon's hills, ridges, creeks, canyons, and agricultural resources. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them.
Any questions from council members? Aparna, I want to say thank you to the whole committee. You guys doing a great job, and I know it's got to be very frustrating that it's probably, our trails are open, right? Our trails in San Ramon are open, but it's a little frustrating that people are not getting out as much as they might want to. But again, our trails are inviting, and to my knowledge, there's no restrictions on hiking around San Ramon trails, right?
No, there isn't, as long as people are respectful and mindful of all the rules. And I think launching the Easy to Hike before we went into shelter in place was a good thing, because people can use that and use that to see what is available, and they can walk around those areas. So yeah, we have a great committee that has really helped and pitched in. So thank you.
Thank you, Aparna. Any other questions?
I just want to comment.
Yes.
I think actually people are hiking more. I've never seen
Yes.
so many people on the trails. It's like
Much
they're
more.
packed.
Like 10 times as much.
The perfect timing for the open space committee. I don't know if we're learning anything, if people are, I think Kathy mentioned the last time the app was being used like X times more. I can't remember the number, but yeah, I've never seen so many people out on the trails before.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. We were trying to get feedback on that app before we stopped our hikes. And so this will be a great opportunity when we get back to our regular meetings to get feedback from the residents on how the app worked for the hikes. So we'll look forward to that.
Scott, you had a question.
Well, no, I was just going to tell Aparna how pleased I am at how engaged the whole committee is on not just trails, but getting people out, and the preservation of our hills and our open space. So they really are working the whole spectrum of open space and trails activities, and I'm really pleased at how engaged the whole committee is. It's a really dynamic group.
It is. I agree. Thank you.
Dave.
Yeah, I was just I've never seen the Iron Horse Trail so active. I mean, it's just, thank goodness they don't put lights on that darn thing, or you'd never get any sleep if you lived there. It has driven people out into open space, whether it's simply the Iron Horse Trail or I thought that the activity along the Dublin-San Ramon border on our east side was picking up over the last several years. And I haven't seen much of a change in that, but I had to tell you, I think it's much more active now. And there, with or without an app, people are going to find a trail and they're going to use it.
Very good. Aparna, thank you very much.
I would, if I could, a couple of comments, Bill, as well. the partnership with East Bay Regional Park District that this committee pushed has really generated amazing dividends, and I certainly hope I expect it will. These committee-led hikes are really popular. I mean, they basically sell out, and that's been a nice bonus. Yeah, I'm seeing 10 times as many people at like Hidden Valley Open Space as I ever saw. One thing that I don't know if that started, the idea came from the committee to engage Stephen Joseph to take the photography that Stephen Spadovsky said he's in the process of doing. So more dividends to come from this committee. And I just want to thank Kathy and her crew, including Jordan and some others, have really been engaged and showing a lot of good ideas and follow through and all that. So it's a fun group to participate in. And yeah, 2020 is going to be the year of open space, isn't it? So thanks very much, Aparna.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. And thank you, Kathy. I can't see you on screen, but thank you. There you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Aparna. Madam Clerk.
Item 12.2, COVID-19 Emergency Response Report. Verbal report by City Manager Joe Gordon.
Good evening, Council. I'd like to just update you on the city's response. This is probably going to be somewhat redundant, but it's for the public record and to allow the public to understand all the actions the city has taken throughout this response to date. So if I can have the clerk start the PowerPoint. Thank you. You can go to the next slide. Next slide. So the city manager's office, and we'll go through each department really quickly. There's several slides involved here. Each department head will update you. And then if you have any questions specific to the response, feel free to ask them. So as you know, city manager's office, we've been in coordination with the state and the state senator and assembly members office for our district. And we also have several folks involved with conference calls throughout the region, and to include weekly conference calls with the city managers in the county. Next slide, please. Next slide. I'm going to give this over to Deputy City Manager Stephen Spadowski to brief you on some of our outreach efforts.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gordon. So for our public outreach and social media, staff is continuing to provide updates via Twitter, Facebook, Nextdoor. All social media posts are being monitored, and we're responding to residents as quickly as we can. We've been using Gov Delivery almost weekly now to send up to all the residents who are subscribed. We have a total of 57,000, over 57,000 subscribers. And when we send out these weekly updates via email, we're getting open rates that are typically we only see about 10 to 15%. It's well over 30, sometimes in the 40s or 50s. And next slide, please. We launched a public outreach website. So it's www.sanramon.ca.gov/COVID-19. You can also go to the front page of the city's website and click on the banner and get to this to the site. I won't go through everything, but this is not a complete list of all of the links that we have so far. So it's latest updates, hotline, senior care resources, where you can get local takeout. And it's also links to all of the county sites and our state representative sites, because updates come from various groups, and we want to make sure that people have the link to everybody. Next slide, please. And then also for public outreach, we immediately, within 5 days of the shutdown, created a 30-second video showing people why it's important to flatten the curve. And we shared that with multiple agencies who were able to brand that and also get that out to their community. And you can view it at the link below. And also, we've been answering all questions that we're receiving about COVID over the city's main line. at 973-2500, and also at info@sanramon.ca.gov. If we do not have the immediate answer, we make sure that we refer people to the correct agency. That's all that I have.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. For Administrative Services, we're continuing to keep up with essential services. So under the Finance Division, we have limited staff in the office coming in each day, staggering. Most are able to work remotely and responding to emails and communicating via cell phone. Our payroll staff, which we're down to just one out of the two, we have a vacancy, but our one person is working really hard to continue to process payroll and payroll-related functions in a timely manner. And staff is in the office during payroll and then working remotely on non-payroll weeks. Our AP staff is continuing to process invoices, cash receipts, and weekly disbursements to our vendors. And they're also staggering, coming in 3 days a week and 2 days working remotely. Next slide. Our city mail is under the Finance Division, and we have rerouted all of the packages and deliveries to 5000 Crow Canyon Road. And we do have a staffer that will go on Tuesdays and Thursdays to pick the mail up and come back and sort the mail by location and do the processing of the outgoing mail. And that person also takes care of the main city phone line, 2500. It's been transferred to the cell phone, and they're monitoring it on a daily basis. And also the major, we had to make major revisions to the proposed 2021 budget development to adjust for the projected revenue losses due to COVID-19. Next slide. Under Human Resources Division, staff is working remotely. They only come in the office as needed to gather work and then go back home and work. The individual phone lines are being directed to their HR main line, which the HR manager is monitoring that line. Staff continues to perform all the duties to support city employees with their benefits, verification of employments, leaves, work-related injuries, and payroll-related requests. We have some recruitment still continuing, new hire orientations, and panel interviews have been now conducted via Zoom video conferencing. Next slide. The HR manager is working with the city manager's office to keep the city in compliance and employees informed on the county's health orders, shelter in place, and also implemented the new federal leave programs under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. For the IT division, most are focused on reconfiguring and configuring equipment and distributing them out to staff. I'm pretty sure there was about 50 plus pieces of equipment, Surface and laptops given to staff to get them to work from home. IT is on a rotational basis where they work on site and remotely on some days. And also the IT department division set up a corporate account with Zoom so the city meetings can continue through video conferencing. That's all for admin services.
The city clerk's office is continuing to keep essential services. Under the governor's executive orders, we are able, as we are this evening, to be able to conduct city council meetings online using Zoom. Since March 24th, we have conducted, including this evening, 4 city council meetings. Since the shelter in place is still in effect within the county, there is still no current physical location for the members of the public to participate. However, we do encourage members of the public still participate in the meetings by either emailing the city clerk or logging into the Zoom meeting. We do post all of our information, including on the agenda, on Nextdoor, GovDelivery, as well as the city's website. And as of May, we continue to onboard additional committees to use Zoom. This next month, we actually are onboarding 8 more committees that you see the list here. So I see in the future, pretty much more committees will also be onboarded. The public records continue to be fulfilled when we receive them. And passport services, Gov 101, and school tours have been suspended until further notice.
Good evening. Community Development still has essential staff in the office trying to maintain those permitting inspection functions. We've updated the links with all of the pertinent information for our residents contractors to obtain building permits, development applications, and business licenses. And we still continue to answer calls and emails. Next slide, please. Since the health order implemented on May 16th, most of the planning service staff has been deployed remotely to work on development applications and other division work. We still continue to process as major applications, City Walk, Croquet Plan Update, the Promenade, and the City Center Hotel, along with some of the smaller ones we're working on. And business license and building permits are still continuing to be worked on. Next slide, please. We also have staff working on digital file maintenance for our move to City Hall eventually, policy research, as well as preparing hard copies of documents for scanning, which helps with our document management system for our move eventually. We have recently begun to transition to remote planning commission and architecture review board meetings. For building and safety services, the permit techs are working in the office and remotely to respond to inquiries. We're scheduling building inspections and we route electronic plan checks for submittal to the appropriate staff. So once the COVID-19 pandemic began, we were already primed to continue to receive and process electronic plan submittals remotely. So we were already set up for that. And so we've had continued to expand upon that. And that has been essential in helping us maintain those functions. With the March 16th health order, we were issuing new permits for residential construction and anything that needed essential repairs for homes to be maintained in a safe condition. The two main projects that we've been working on the inspection side is the Preserve Development and Summit Senior Housing. Since the March 16th health order, code enforcement would assist the police services in the shelter-in-place complaints. And the only residential permits that we could process were for housing that included an affordable component per the governor's order. We also instituted remote inspections on April 20th for expired permits and water heater permits safe and healthy. So beginning April 29th, the world kind of opened up for us. All construction was allowed by the latest health order with the construction safety protocols in place. And so we've asked staff to ensure that those protocols are in place before they go onto the site to conduct their inspections. Inspections requests that were tracked since March 17th. And those that were tracked and held, we have now begun on May 1st, we informed those that they could begin to schedule their inspections. So those are more residential and other inspections that could not be accommodated during the first health order that was issued. So since March 16th, actually we have 140 inspections that have been, applications that have been received, 16 essential permits issued. The balance of these have been held until we could resume construction on May 4th. Since we have May 4th, construction has resumed with the appropriate protocols in place, and we now have all building inspectors back in the office, and plan check staff will continue remotely processing those applications. And regarding code enforcement, we assisted, as I mentioned previously, police services with 50 responses to shelter-in-place violations. And as of May 4th, now we have began pursuing yard violations limited to tall weed and grass on properties that are repeat offenders. We're trying to take a very sensitive approach to this right now, but we'll work on those repeat offenders at this point in time as we move forward through this pandemic.
Good evening again. So I'm going to talk about Parks and Community Services. So the department has been very busy working on several new initiatives to help the community through this crisis and making plans to offer limited programs this summer that will fit with the county and state guidelines to keep everyone safe. Just to talk about some of the big things that the department has done since the start of the crisis, a senior hotline number was established in both English and Mandarin as a way for San Ramon seniors to sign up for lunch delivery and to communicate any needs that they might have that the city might be able to help with. To date, that phone number has received 491 calls. Next slide. We also established a COVID-19 general hotline number for the public to call. And that was so any resident who needed some additional support or wanted additional information on what the city was doing for COVID-19 had a number. And since it was established, we've received 53 calls, primarily asking for resources for low-income families, locations of testing centers, and also, of course, what activities are allowable during the shelter-in-place order as it shifts and changes. Next slide. We have been doing senior lunch delivery, and in order to continue the senior lunch program, staff takes frozen lunch packs that the county delivers to the senior center and facilitates delivery and pickup. The meal order has increased from 15 meals in the first week of the crisis to 144 meals to date. We have staff out there delivering 117 of them, and we have some seniors, 27, that will actually pick them up. We couldn't achieve this without the support of our San Ramon Police Department, San Ramon Valley Fire District, and the San Ramon Public Works Department, who have all helped with delivering the meals to the seniors in the community. In addition to the meals, we also are delivering the different items that have been requested by seniors via the hotline, items such as toilet paper, homemade masks, and activity or resources to further engage and connect with them. Some examples of things that we've done are the game packs, the handmade cards, Encore newsletter, flyers on how to make homemade masks. So this kind of shows you just exactly what people have been requesting, which we've had 68 requests for paper goods, 29 for food items, non-perishable, 32 for masks, and then 8 for cleaning items and 1 for transportation. And to date, all of those requests that seniors have made have been able to be filled. We've also created a senior bridge, is what we like to call it, or welfare calls. The primary goals of this program were to ensure that any homebound seniors know that someone is out there and cares, and to offer assistance if needed. So staff identified seniors in San Ramon through our several different databases and have made over 600 personal calls to date. The staff makes sure that the seniors are aware of the resources, answer questions, and also see if they would like a daily or weekly check-in call. And to date, 30 of our seniors have requested and are receiving weekly calls from PCS staff. We also partnered with the county to collect PPE, personal protective equipment. And we've been doing that on site at City Hall. The station was manned by city staff and or county staff because we offered both. And to date, we have collected 4,853 PPE, including gloves, surgical masks, gowns, disinfectant goggles. We also received 88 donations of cleaning supplies, baby wipes, and paper products that were needed for essential service worker childcare centers. All the donations that have been received to date are being stored in Concord and can be requested by area hospitals as needed. And we are going to continue the PPE collection. The next PPE collection is planned for May 26th to 28th from 10 to 2 at City Hall. Now, we talked about trails and open space a little earlier, and I was all ready because I knew we had these numbers coming up. So the Trails and Open Space webpage has been updated with guidelines for participants to hike during the shelter in place. So when you're actually out on a hike and you're using your Easy to Hike mobile app, you'll get notifications on the trail that remind you to keep 6-foot distance and to follow all the assorted rules. The staff started our Trails Challenge program early and pushed that out to the middle schools and high schools also to encourage that kids who needed PE requirements might be able to use open space to get there. And since 3/1, the Easy to Hike app has been downloaded 1,386 times in the San Ramon area specifically. The San Ramon trails have been viewed 2,022 times. And this is the exciting metric, I think. There have been 822 hikers who have spent a combined total of 1,082 hours on the trails utilizing the app. So it's exciting because the open space is being used by our community, and it's a great way to get out and get exercise. When you're sheltering in place, you can still get out on the trails. We also developed a volunteer opportunity. We had a lot of calls from people coming in, so we developed a COVID-19 community response volunteer group. The current tasks for our volunteer group are to outreach to neighbors to make sure seniors are aware of the services available, distribute the senior resource flyer, which was a flyer created specifically to get out to seniors who might not have access to computers, to help with the donation of hard to find items that we've been redistributing to seniors in San Ramon. They've made donations of handmade masks for redistribution to the seniors. And all in all, we have 90 volunteers signed up in the group. They remain active and ready to assist. Specifically, if we continue to go up with our meal donation, we may be calling on this group to help. Next slide. We also established a virtual rec center with resources and links for children, adults, and seniors to stay busy and active during the shelter-in-place order. The page includes activities, outdoor activities, virtual classes, virtual events, all kinds of resources, and it's constantly being updated with new things to do to stay active while staying at home. The page has been viewed 3,549 times, so we know people are getting there and people are enjoying using some of those resources. We also have a new social media outreach to engage the community during the COVID-19 shelter in place. It's called #SanRamonAtHome. I hope you've all seen it when you're looking at Facebook, but there are weekly challenges that aim to engage with a wide range of community members. The initial post was a huge success, reaching 1,284 people with 26 different photos of people sharing their pets' photos. So staff continued to develop new fun posts to help connect the community and provide some kind of happiness and positivity into their days at home. Next slide just gives you a quick little snapshot of what some of those posts look like and their metrics. It's been very successful, and we are going to continue that throughout the rest of this crisis.
Good evening. I will provide an update for the police department. One thing that I think is important to note is that even though our patrol schedule model changed, which I will reference in the next slide, we've been committed to maintaining very high levels of visibility in our community. We understand that there might be some that might want to take advantage of the situation, so we understand the need to continue to maintain very high visibility in the community, which we've been able to do. Next slide, please. So on March 23rd, we switched our patrol schedule to a 12.5-hour patrol schedule across the board. And that provided a couple advantages to us. Number one, we were able to actually supplement our patrol teams, increasing those teams by 1 to 2 officers in most cases. And it also enabled us to limit cross exposure across teams. Of course, the concern being that if we did get someone infected, that it would only impact one team versus potentially impacting a number of teams, which obviously would be pretty catastrophic for us. We will remain on this schedule at least until and through July 5th, and then we'll reevaluate at that point if we're going to continue this schedule beyond that. So since the public order went into effect, we've been tracking all calls that we've received regarding public health order violations. As was already referenced, we have worked in collaboration with code enforcement to respond to the public health order violations. Here you see that for the first 4 or 5 weeks, we were getting about 35 to 45 calls a week. The last couple of weeks that has declined. Our response has really been to provide education to the community, and that's been a very good approach for us. At this point, we've not had to take any official enforcement. No citations have been issued, and that will continue to be our approach moving forward as we get these complaints and respond, will be to provide education. So very early on in this process, our dispatch center started screening incoming calls to hopefully identify possible COVID-19 concerns, and whatever information they were able to glean from those phone calls would then be passed on to first responders, again, with the idea that if police or fire know that they're going into an incident where someone, say, is exhibiting flu-like symptoms, they would ensure that they would don proper PPE equipment, if at all possible, before making contact. We are attempting to handle as many calls as we can via telephone as opposed to making personal contact. Of course, there are times in certain higher priority calls where we have to make contact, but on some of those lower priority calls, we're attempting to handle those via phone calls as much as possible. And in early April, we started a virtual PD process where members of the community can actually go to our website, click on a link, and request an officer contact them via teleconference, much like we're doing here this evening. And that seems to be gaining some traction, and that's likely a format that we will continue even beyond the COVID-19 crisis. I want to mention that even though our front counter is closed and has been for quite some time, we do have a number of record staff that are still working during business hours. So if you have a matter that needs attention, if you call the police department or send us an email during business time, we do have staff that is available and will respond to those. And there are still certain functions that we need to handle, such as tow releases and property releases. So that just demonstrates the need for having that staff available during business hours. And it will be by appointment only. As I mentioned earlier, we've really had a strong emphasis regarding maintaining visibility in our community. Some areas we've really paid particular attention to are business districts, shopping centers, grocery stores. We've also paid close attention to construction areas and public storage facilities, again, with the idea that these may be some locations that are vulnerable to certain types of crimes, and trying to maintain high visibility to hopefully deter those as much as possible. So unfortunately, we did have some programs that we had to halt, included our Citizens Police Academy as well as our volunteer program. And I know that our volunteers are looking forward to getting back to work. You know, we rely very heavily on them for many of the things we do. They're fantastic, and I know that they're anxious to get back, and we're anxious to get them back as well. But we have suspended that program until we get the clearance to bring them back. So up to this point, we've had a total of 5 officers that have demonstrated flu-like symptoms that were able to get tested. Fortunately, all of those results came back as negative, and all those officers have returned to work and are healthy. In mid-April, we started the process of taking the temperature of all of our staff members when they reported to work, and anyone displaying a temperature of 100.4 or higher will be sent home, and they'll remain at home until their temperatures return to a normal range. Regarding our personal protective equipment, we are very well leveraged as far as our equipment, our masks, gloves, sanitizers, gowns, eye protection. We feel very comfortable with our level of protective equipment for our staff. We've also been able to provide some PPEs to other departments throughout the city. So at this point, I feel that again, we're well inventoried as far as our PPE inventory goes. We did establish an exposure guide, and that is a process that we will follow if any of our staff members become exposed or a potential exposure to a person that's positive with COVID-19. We've not had to implement the exposure guide yet. However, we do have all those processes and protocols in place if and when that does occur. In early April, we started having crime scene cleaners come in and sanitize all of our vehicles on a weekly basis. Last week, we actually started utilizing a different process, which we're using a fogger, which sprays a fine mist throughout the vehicles. It's more cost effective. It's a pretty quick process. Some other departments in the area are doing it already, and it's something we will continue doing, likely at least on a weekly basis for the foreseeable future. And fortunately, obviously some of our staff are not at work, but we've been able to identify work for the majority of our staff members. They've been able to work from home through help of our IT department. We were able to staff many members with laptops, and again, they're looking forward to getting back to work as well, but we're keeping them busy and have been able to identify tasks for most of our staff members to complete during this time.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. So for the Public Works Department, We have deployed essential staff to cover all the essential services related to public works. Many of the department operations continue through the shelter in place, and we're staying consistent with the order and the period. A total number of staff reporting for coverage started at 10 to 15 staff per day. And with the restrictions being lifted slowly on the orders, we have over 50 staff reporting on an average day. Staff continues to respond to calls and CRMs, and that is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. All calls are picked up during business hours and outside business hours and on weekends. If the residents call dispatch, that our staff is ready to go and respond to any issues that may arise related to public works and public facilities. The managers and supervisors are on a rotation in the office and will always be on call and report to work or send supervisors or field staff out to address any issues. There are a handful of staff that are working remotely, and that work has been identified. That includes trainings, design work, plan review, inventory, database work, and other items such as that. And what has been mentioned previously, we have been assisting the Parks Department with senior meal deliveries and PPE collections. In the Parks and Trails program area, the trails have been mentioned a lot, so our staff has been aware of the heightened use of the trails. So we are actively out there picking up the litter, the dog waste bags, making sure they're filled back up, and clearing of the weeds. We're monitoring all the parks regularly for overflow of trash, park restroom cleanup, upkeep of signage, and secured amenities. And we're doing general park maintenance and park irrigation repairs during this time, as well as performing basic mowing of sports fields in passive parks. If staff sees any type of non-compliance that is occurring, we report it to the police department and let them know of these situations that are occurring. And this park staff is also responsible for posting of all the signage for all the different parks amenities to make sure that it is in compliance with the orders. So the closures and the status of the park amenities to date, as of May 4th, we have new signage that has gone up for the skate park, the tennis courts, the basketball courts, and the 2 sports fields. They are all open, and there's new signage that has been put up, but it also includes the restrictions of making sure that they are socially distancing. One of the signs that is there is the one that says sports requiring people to share a ball or other equipment must be limited to people living in same household. The trails do remain open. They have from day one, but again, because of the heightened use, we wanted to make sure that we reminded the residents using the trails by putting the stay healthy signs up at all the trailheads. The May order did also specify various park amenities that are still closed, and those include the dog parks, so those remain locked, the picnic tables, which are signed and closed, and the playgrounds, which are signed and closed with secured tape. We've also secured and signed all the drinking fountains in the parks. With regards to landscaping, at the very beginning, landscape and school park maintenance work essentially stopped. However, the tree contractor continued with tree pruning and tree management as an essential service for public safety. We have started at the start, we did basic mowing of landscape turf, but no planting or landscape improvements. We've been doing some irrigation head and line repair and been doing litter pickup in landscape areas, take care of site visibility issues and encroachment into sidewalks and roads. We have been receiving a number of complaints from overgrown weeds in the landscape areas. And as of April 20th, we started weed abatement, spraying those landscape areas. And now as of May 4th, all the landscape activities are resumed. So we can start addressing all of the overgrown weeds and other items associated with the landscaping. In signal, streets, drainage, and our service yards, we continue to address trip hazards in the sidewalks. continued signal maintenance and inspections for safety. We are removing all the litter in the waterways and identifying and repairing hazardous potholes in roadways. We continue to maintain the vehicles, equipment, and tools used by our essential staff, and we're making sure that the yards are sanitized as well as the vehicles and the equipment on a regular basis. Our street sweeping services continue and they remain on schedule, and we're responding to illegal dumping and graffiti removal. The facilities all continue to remain closed. However, the 2 city service centers are open for deliveries, contractors, and essential services for maintenance and operations of city infrastructure and facilities. And we also, as was mentioned previously, receive all of the city mail. We have been deep cleaning and sanitizing all of the surfaces in city facilities due to the minimal number of staff in the facilities or the closed facilities where there are no staff. And we continue to perform janitorial checks to ensure that working staff has soap, paper towels, and toilet paper, and perform emergency light checks and security, plumbing, and vandalism checks, just to make sure the facilities are staying intact. We did some mowing at Crow Canyon Gardens, and that is complete. And we also did some fence repairs at Forest Home Farms. The pools continue to remain closed. However, aquatic staff has been performing daily pool and chemical checks. We continue to operate the mechanical and water treatment equipment to maintain the cleanliness of our city's 5 pools. And the chemical checks are still being completed to ensure that the water chemistry is consistent and drains are being checked for debris and cleared to continue the flow through the systems. Moving to transportation, staff is coordinating very closely with our county connections. There is a significant reduction in services. They started off with free transit on May 24th. However, effective April 18th, they canceled certain evening routes as well as weekend routes. We do have an up-to-date bus information that is available on our city's website, and you can find it on the County Connection website as well. We canceled summer youth pass programs and student transit ticket programs for fall 2020, which is on hold. And wanted to remind everyone that the Go San Ramon on-demand transit service is still available for single passengers. And that information can also be found on the County Connections website. And as far as the traffics program, refunds for school bus passes purchases are being processed. For the engineering division, construction inspections continue with utility encroachment permits in compliance with the order. Currently, we have over 30 permits that are active throughout the city. Construction oversight at Deer Creek senior housing site work is being performed and has a component of the affordable housing. The engineers continue to work on designs, plan reviews, project management, remote monitoring of infrastructure, database management, as well as mapping. And staff has requested submittals from contractors demonstrating compliance with mandated COVID-19 precautions. With regards to solid waste, garbage collection continues to be on schedule. There has been a reduction in garbage subscriptions, a reduction in tonnage of materials collected from commercial customers, as well as an increase in residential tonnage. Staff is working closely with ACI, our garbage hauler, to ensure customers' service is not impacted during shelter in place. So with the revised order effective May 4th, our essential services continue. All outdoor businesses have resumed, and that is all parks and landscape maintenance and operations. So that is all in full swing. Public Works construction projects and development projects are under construction and have resumed. Developing the implementation protocols for construction projects is a priority for us, and contractors have been notified. They must comply with the orders, specifically for face mask order as well as the construction protocols order.
hit the wrong button, sorry. My stop video button instead of my mute button there. Thank you very much. So what I'd like to just highlight is number one, the city, when this first started, as you know, it's only been a couple months, and as you know, things have changed multiple times rapidly. And the city, we initially identified this as this was ramping up. We formulated a COVID-19 rapid response team, which consisted of department heads and key staff members, and developed pretty comprehensive response plans, not only to the initial shelter in place or the initial health orders that we received, but also were able to quickly adapt to each order as they were adjusted. And that culminated in the summary of what you just received. So though the city and most of the community slowed down, the city itself was able to continue with business. We were able to adapt to those issues surrounding the orders and still provide those business functions that we could provide under each of the orders. I feel like we've been successful in that, and this is the response in part to the emergency proclamation that the city has made that we're continuing under, and hopefully we'll see some federal reimbursement at some point in time. Our next steps now, as we move forward into this order, as well as future adjustments to the order, will be bringing our employees back to work when that's allowed, even the non-essential employees back to work in a safe atmosphere, workplace. So the COVID-19 response team is developing a comprehensive plan on getting our employees back into a work environment that is both safe and productive, and potentially exploring additional ways to work remotely as necessary, and then also to be able to bring the public into our facilities and be able to engage with the public in the same manner in a safe environment as that is allowed. So with that being said, that's your update for the city's response. I'm happy to take any questions. All the department heads are here and are happy to take any questions you may have of each department head.
I don't see any raised hands.
Okay.
I think it might be good, Joe. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a request to speak on this item.
Go right ahead, please.
We have one public comment from Luz Gomez.
Good evening, everyone. This is Luz Gomez, and I just really want to congratulate the city on having done a really good job of responding to the COVID crisis. As many of you know, I work for Contra Costa Public Health, and I've been following and doing case investigations, and the impact of this virus on the communities is very real. And so I'm very pleased to see that thanks to all the efforts from, for one thing, getting the word out to the community regularly through many means, and the ability to post information on the website, which by the way, looks really good. San Ramon is having one of the lowest rates of cases per 100,000 in the county so far. We're like the third lowest with 43 per 100,000, which is about 36 cases. So I just wanted to say a word of kudos and congratulations, because I think the city has really gone above and beyond in trying to meet this crisis and address the community's concerns, including to seniors and to everyone in the community. And I also think, as you well know, the community has really come together around this in ways that we hadn't seen previously. So I think that's my comment on this item.
Thank you very much. Anybody else, Madam Clerk?
No, that was the only request to speak.
Okay. Martin, do we need to accept this report, or is this sufficient?
There's no motion required for this item.
Thank you. Want to make sure we're good on that. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 13, city manager comments.
Geez, Joe, what do you have more to add?
This is my night, I guess. So I actually have a few items I'd like to share with you. You may have seen the police department's Facebook post. However, Seas Candy was very generous and donated a whole lot of, I don't know if that's, it is candy, but they donated a whole lot of candy to the police department, to the city, hundreds of pounds actually, and Seas in coordination with the 100 Club of Contra Costa County helped coordinate that, and they've delivered over 20,000 pounds of candy throughout the region to hospitals and veterans places and fire districts and things like that. So
City halls.
What's that?
City halls.
City halls. There's one in City Hall. There's some in City Hall if you come over. The San Ramon Community Center update. We're about a couple of weeks away from the completion of the San Ramon Community Center. It looks outstanding in my opinion, given the fact that we're probably not going to be able to hold a grand opening this time. We might take a little card off the mayor's deck here on realtors and do a virtual tour and grand opening, so folks can see how nice the community center has turned out. And then finally, the fire district city MOU, we've pretty much completed the vast majority of that. So you could probably expect to see a discussion or a presentation on that in either next council meeting or the first one in June.
Great.
That's it for me.
Thank you, Joe. Madam Clerk.
Item 14, public comment. It looks like
Go ahead,
I was
going to say this is for anybody in the audience who hasn't yet addressed the city council meeting on any topic that's not on the agenda. We ask that you speak for 3 minutes or less. Anybody else have their hand up?
Looks like we have one request to speak, and it's Luz Gomez.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone, again. So I have a couple of questions / comments. One has to do with the draft EIR for City Walk that I understand will be coming out soon. I would like to have I'm sure it'll be on the website, but I'm hoping that people will be able to learn about this as soon as it comes out. So I would be curious to know when you're expecting it. Also, I'm sure you're giving a lot of thought to how you will be doing community outreach under COVID-19 for this very important project for the city. So I'll be curious to hear at some point down the road how we're going to be doing this community outreach for the project. And also if you have any schedule for upcoming meetings or hearings having to do with City Walk. My second comment has to do with the website. I was reviewing it recently and I realized that there's a couple of things that would be great if they could be updated. One has to do with the City Council main page. It still says that the City Council, 4 council members are elected at large. So at some point soon, we're going to need to change that to reflect the new district election landscape. And then on the district election tab, it still says that people are, that you can still submit your district proposal. But we have already decided on what the districts will be. So there's a few places where I would recommend that the city update the website. And then lastly, I don't believe I have read or heard whether the city is planning to do anything to honor our graduating seniors. Given that high schools will not be able to hold graduation ceremonies, it would be nice for the city to do something meaningful for our seniors. I don't have any grand ideas as to what that might be. But I know that some residents have suggested doing banners, perhaps, on some of the light posts. So those are my comments.
Thank you very much. Because of the Brown Act, we cannot engage in a conversation, but staff can circle back to you. We have your contact information and to follow up on your questions, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Madam Clerk?
No, that was the only request to speak.
Okay, I'll close public comment. Next item.
Item 15, city council members and mayor's comments.
Great. Dave, we'll start with you and go around the circle. At least the
Okay,
circle I have in front of me.
I guess it was about 10 days ago at the update that we do on Fridays that I half-heartedly said, maybe we ought to bring back fireworks. I've actually been thinking about this for the last 10 days. We're going to get inundated this year with fireworks, particularly from, they're just, everything's shutting down. We're not doing anything. And I'm wondering if we don't have any opposition from the rest of the council, whether we can allow the city manager to talk to the fire chief and the fire marshal about doing 4 days, July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And if we do just the foundations, the 4 foundations, I'm convinced they'll each net at least $20,000. Now, the idea is you're not going anywhere without the fire marshal, probably the fire chief. But I guarantee you we're going to have these things all over town. There's no other game around. And Dublin is going to sell again this year. And it's a simple little brochure we have made up like this. Tells you how to act, how to do it. We set up the conditions. It's all on city properties. And it's one-time deal. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Dave. Phil. You're on mute still.
Valley Link has its first virtual meeting tomorrow. Looking forward to hearing the progress on that. And then I would like to give a shout out to the graduates, although I'd be curious to hear what the schools are doing to celebrate the graduates, just as a point of order, other than starting with us. And I am curious, Christina, are you getting any guidance on elections so far for the fall?
We actually have a meeting on Thursday with the county. So
thank you.
I'll get an update.
And I'd also just like to give the city manager and mayor a shout out for coordinating these mayor's things on Friday. They've been very informative, and I think my sense is quite well attended as well. So thanks for transforming that. I think it's been quite useful for the community, especially the infectious disease doctor who's become the star of the event. So thanks for doing that.
Yes, he has. Scott.
I just want to compliment staff on the budget meeting we had earlier today and keeping the city going as well as it is. Appreciate it. Great.
Sabina.
Yeah, well, first I lost my Wi-Fi, so I'm coming to you from my phone now. Yeah, just wanted to say one, for the report and everything, thank you for doing an amazing job. We've talked about this earlier as well, but what the city staff has done and how they've really kind of been creative in some of the things they've been able to launch. The website has been phenomenal. And one of my council asks was when I got on council was how can we, stream our meetings? And so being on YouTube, just is awesome. I really want to give a shout out to, I think Stephen's been behind this and the city clerk for making it happen. And for the seniors, so my daughter is going to be graduating. So they are having a couple of ceremonies. There is a virtual ceremony, and then there's going to be a drive-by or a drive-through ceremony, where, however, we're going to all sit in our cars and drive and graduate like that. You've probably seen all these yard signs around town. They're popping up everywhere. People are acknowledging their seniors. So that's really nice to see, how many homes have seniors there. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Sabina. Go ahead.
And yeah, I was going to say, Dave mentioned about fireworks. I think he mentioned that we
have to be careful. We have to be careful not to discuss things that aren't agendized.
All right, so
Thank
I will, all right, I
I
wanted
see
to understand
Martin
what he meant.
nodding his head, so I think I'm okay on that call. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
All right,
Just want to say thank you to Phil for the shout out about the mayor's breakfast, because this Friday we have the county health officer, Chris Farentano, who will be our guest speaker along with Joe and Candace Anderson. And the whole hour, an hour and 10 minutes will be dedicated to the county health officer talking to our residents about his directives and giving our residents a chance through asking questions, info@sanramon.ca.gov, to ask questions of the doctor. So looking forward to Friday. And again, thank you, Joe, and thank you, Steve, for having those events work out really well. That's all I have. Madam Clerk,
Item 16, adjournment.
is there a motion? I think Scott said a motion, but he's on mute. All those in favor signify by leaving, but don't go too far because